So I recently had my first 3-gig weekend, and I want to take you guys through what happened. I have some behind the scenes footage, a little bit of performance, and tell you what my thought process and prep was going into this. All 3 of these gigs were as a sub bass player, so these weren't regular groups that I perform with. So that was an additional challenge that these performances brought, and it was really fun and really exciting, and I'll take you through it. Okay, so here's a look at the 3 gigs. The first one was with a top 40 or classic rock cover band, and we played at an outdoor, or sort of half in, half out bar restaurant in Delaware, right on the banks of the river. And this was our setup for the gig. The screens were open and the wind was coming through. It was really, really nice. This is the rig that I played through. I've got, 2 basses there, one's in the bag and one's out. I often will strap my bass head to the side of my cabinet so that if I want to sit down and really feel the bass, I can do that. And here's a little bit of the performance. We're just churning through some of these cover tunes. My thoughts here are really just trying to lock in with the drummer and be as reliable and as tight as I can rhythmically, and not trying to do too much on the fill side of things. I know that's kind of cliche, but I often find that I play a little bit too busy when I'm not as prepared as I want to be. So the preparation and sort of tastefulness of the playing kind of go hand in hand. And speaking of preparation, how did I do that? Well, the band leader sent me over the list of about 40 or so songs 2 weeks before the gig. So there was really plenty of time to get ready. I first took a look at the set list and quickly divided it into songs that I'd played before in other bands and ones that I hadn't done. And of the songs that I hadn't done before, just identified the ones that I thought were going to be more challenging. With this particular gig, there was only 2 or 3. There was a Styx song, a Foreigner song, and a Kansas song. And the Kansas song, they had actually changed the key. So, when I create my Spotify playlist and start playing through the tunes, I had to keep that key change in mind and sort of learn that song in different keys to make sure that I was able to accommodate that performance. But the prep for this gig, really, we just had 1 rehearsal. I met everybody in the band except the band leader who I'd met before the Monday previous. So 1 rehearsal, about 2.5 hours. And again, just going through the songs that I didn't know really well. And it was my responsibility to learn, the more basic tunes, the, Brown Eyed Girl and American Girl, stuff like that. That was on me. Okay, on to the next day. So this is the breakfast that I had. I stopped at Tank and Libby's in Drexel Hill, which if you're in Philadelphia, that's the spot, or in suburban Philadelphia, Delco. Here's the Italian Market Festival. This was a jazz quartet gig, and we were opening the festival, so it was just getting started when we rolled up. This is between 8th and 10th Street on Washington Avenue in South Philly. And the Italian Market Festival, they have, all the different sort of food vendors out, and you can stroll and get food. Here are some still pictures of the greased pole competition, where you can go and assemble a team of people to try and climb up the pole and get the meats and cheeses at the top, which I think is pretty hilarious. But this is a real Philadelphia staple of the Italian Market Festival, and really brings the city together for this. So really, really good time. As I was walking on stage, I looked down and saw this monitor that said stars on it. And as I was, figuring that out, I said, stars, I know what that means. That's my buddy's band. For those that don't know, my day job is I run a commercial gym. And one of my trainers, my head trainer, and it's named Chris, or Bubba, we call him. He plays in a big wedding band. He's a vocalist for a wedding band. So I looked down and said, stars, that's his band. So putting 2 and 2 together, it's basically the same sound guy that does each is doing this one. And I know the sound guy, so there was a little bit of a network thing there that was happening. So you never know who you're going to run into, and this was a good coincidence. Okay, so here's a little footage of our performance. We had, about 10 or 12 jazz standard tunes, very heavily weighted towards the Frank Sinatra stuff. Wanted to give the crowd some familiar tunes. I think this one is Fly Me to the Moon. And we're just playing through these. We have a vibraphonist for this gig, which is a little special. You know, these gigs, I met these guys through Settlement Music, which is a Philadelphia music school where I'm in their adult jazz ensemble. But we had never performed together, at least not in this configuration, so this was a nice pickup. Again, just minimal rehearsal. For this gig, we did 2 rehearsals, and we met at the music school and just went through the tunes. A lot of what we worked on were the openings and closings of these different songs and customizing those to try and get those really tight. This particular group, we're pretty good on the meat of the song, and once you get into the chart, you know, there was really no problems there, but the openings and closings took a lot of work. So I didn't take a picture of it, but I had a spreadsheet with all my responsibilities. Hey, you know, vamp for this many bars, you know, play this turnaround, all that kind of stuff that's on my music stand there. And that caused a little bit of anxiety because I didn't want to mess those openings up, but it largely went pretty smooth. I did have a little issue with feedback with the upright, so I learned something there. That, you know, all the small jazz combo gigs that I've played, much smaller stages, so didn't really have a problem with sort of feedback. But the big stage with the big amp, I need to find a solution there. So thinking about getting some kind of parametric EQ, and I can notch out some frequencies and figuring out different ways to do that. But yeah, this was a really fun gig. Again, outdoors gig, just a total blast to play. Okay, moving on to the 3rd gig. This was the same night. Here's a picture of one of our cats. This is Chip. It somehow ended up into the camera roll. All right, 3rd gig. We're now in Downingtown, Pennsylvania at a restaurant. Again, this one kind of indoors and outdoors. They have a big back porch where they can open it up. So we were set up on that porch, and patrons were in the front of the bar as well as the restaurant. Just a really nice setup, really nice to do these kind of gigs in the spring and not be cooped up inside. Here's the rig that I was playing through. Again, the same kind of Ibanez bass that I played. Here's some of the food that I got beforehand. You know, this was the same repertoire as Friday night, so it was really just about locking everything down and kind of refining my approach versus what I had done on Friday. Again, I think as I get more comfortable with the tunes, you know, finding my pocket and finding my place in the music becomes a little bit easier, and I'm less worried about, you know, where's the next note, where do my fingers go, and just thinking purely about, hey, lock in with the drummer and make sure everything sounds really good, and you support the vocalists and support the melody instruments. And I would say my performance on Saturday night was much better than Friday night for my own personal, you know, take on it. I really think that I did a better job on Saturday, given the time with the material and just having played it the night before. So yeah, 3 gig weekend, pretty exciting stuff. I hope to get this type of stuff again, especially if it's fill-in gigs. It makes me really feel like, hey, you know, you're doing the thing. Like, you can show up and play a gig and you don't need a ton of prep. And I really like that part of my playing nowadays is, you know, becoming more flexible, being able to do both instruments. And yeah, want to continue down this road and make sure this is a regular part of my life. Anyway, thanks for watching. Smash the like button, all the normal stuff. And I've got a gig coming up at the end of the month with the tribute bands that I play with, and I'll take some video of that one. All right, take care.